Good evening, everyone. Tonight we have the privilege of having the police chaplain, Dennis Gerard, here this evening, and we would like to ask him to open us in the invocation this evening.
Let's bow our heads. Gracious Heavenly Father, Lord, we just thank you so much for this city. We thank you for the lives that are impacted, that rely on support services. They rely on this council and the decisions that are made. And Father, we're just thankful for those who step forward and are a part of serving this community. I pray for the council that they would have wise decisions and be guided by you, that they would be able to deal with the difficult tasks that are laid in front of them. Father, tonight we're so thankful as we are here and we get to see a new chief sworn in. And Father, we just ask that you would be with Matt, that you would just bless him and the service to the community. Lord, we pray for Travis as he steps into a new position. And Father, just ask again that they would just be wise in their decisions and that they would continue to be true leaders in the community. And Father, we thank you for all of the services in Freeport, the fire and the police, ambulance, rescue, dispatchers, various ones doing various jobs. Father, they have difficult jobs, but they're there for the people, and they always go out and they always do their best. So we ask your blessing on each department there. Father, be with the council tonight, guide them in decisions, and we just lift all of this to you in Jesus' name. Amen.
Thank you. So now we will officially call this committee of the whole meeting to order. Madam Clerk, would you please take the roll?
Mayor Miller,
Here.
Alderpersons Borneman,
Here.
McClanathan,
Here.
Ross,
Here.
Parker,
Here.
Busker,
Here.
Brashaw,
Here.
Mysick is absent, and Berberay.
Here.
And if you could all stand and join us with the Pledge of Allegiance led by Alderman McClanathan.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And the meeting is yours, Alderman McClanathan.
Thank you. The first item on the agenda after the pledge is the approval of the agenda. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Alderperson Brashaw, seconded by Alderperson Ross. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion to approve the agenda, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries. Next up is approval of minutes from the Committee of the Whole meeting held on October 15th, 2019. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Moved by Alderman Busker, seconded by Alderman Parker. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries. Item 6 is public comments. There's one. Oh, it's non-agenda. Okay, so we'll do it at the end of the meeting here. And then item 7 is swearing in by Mayor Miller of Matthew E. Summers as Chief of Police and Travis K. Davis as Deputy Chief of Police.
Well, we'll start this evening with our police and fire chairman saying a few words.
It's been my opportunity to not only hire Matt, but to promote him throughout the years. And you see, once in a while, you see those shining stars. You see those people that are coming up through the ranks that you think at some point they're the one. Okay? And Matt is the one. Okay? An acid test that I have when I hire policemen and firemen is, can they take care of the situation when they're called upon to do that? I'm absolutely convinced that Matt can do that job. So congratulations.
Well then, Matt, let's make it official. If you could raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, Matthew E. Summers,
I'm Matthew E. Summers,
having been appointed as Chief of Police
having been appointed as Chief of Police
in the city of Freeport,
in the city of Freeport,
in the county of Stevenson,
in the county of Stevenson,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Illinois,
and the Constitution of the State of Illinois,
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties
and I will faithfully discharge the duties
of my appointment according to the best of my ability.
according to the best of my abilities.
Congratulations, Matt. We're proud to have you here. Make that official. Get your signature.
Mayor, I'm going to just say quick things so everybody's aware. We had, there were 26 people that applied for the position. 19 were determined to be qualified. Of those 19, there were 5 that were selected to go forward in reviewing. And of the 5, Matt was determined to be the most qualified as we went forward. So, so of 26 people, yeah, beat out nationwide. We had applicants from Arkansas, Tennessee, Virginia, as well as the state of Illinois.
We're honored to have you here.
I'm honored to be here.
All right. Well, Travis, we're ready for you.
Travis, I've also had the opportunity to hire you and see you grow through the years, just as Matt. I've been involved in your promotions. I was involved in the selection, and putting you on the list for deputy chief. And it's a great honor that I bestow upon you tonight as deputy chief of the city of Freeport Police Department. Congratulations. Thank you.
Raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, Travis K. Davis,
I, Travis K. Davis,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Illinois,
and the Constitution of the State of Illinois,
and I will faithfully discharge the duties
and I will faithfully discharge the duties
of the office of Deputy Chief of Police
of the office of Deputy Chief of Police
according to the best of my ability.
according to the best of my ability.
Congratulations, Travis. And then Brian, I'll need your signature, and Matt, I'll need yours.
The second one, just one more.
Yep.
Travis, it's an honor to congratulate you on the Deputy Chief. And we have your badge, your color brass, as well as your hat badge, 102. Thank you. It's my pleasure and honor. Look forward to it.
We're going to just take a moment and take some photos. Brian, if you'd like to stay here with us. And then once you get what photos you want with your family, we'd like to have all the officers that are here this evening take a group photo with these men. So Travis, I can take pictures as well. All right, so if our officers can join, that would be very welcome. Thank you.
leave it here?
Do you want this to stay here?
We'll put it in his,
Is the envelope or the folder? Okay, great.
Take it easy, Scott.
Some heat out here. Matt, you already got the jacket off here?
Go sit here and sweat all night.
All right, well, congratulations again. And well, moving on to item number 8 is discussion of the ordinance regarding firewood piles presented by Manager Crowe and Attorney Cox.
Thank you, Alderman Clanathan. So we've had some complaints, and we've actually had some issues in dealing with issuing of citations for rodent harborages, and we determined in reviewing that and looking at what other communities are doing that the rodent harborages are large wood piles that a lot of the communities across the state of Illinois have regulations on dealing with wood piles. And so we've actually, with the help of research by Community Development Director Zubkoff, working with the Park District and their expertise in dealing with wood, the recommendation before you is to limit it to 2 cords of cut wood, which is, make sure I get the dimensions right, it's 4 by 4 by 8, or along that, to limit it that stored, which is the equivalent for burning of approximately 45 days of burning for wood. And talking with the experts is that they should be 6 inches off the ground to prevent mice, rodents, squirrels, skunks from taking them, taking position within them. I actually, feedback was interesting today at both my, at the Kiwanis meeting, is that I had 5 people come up and approach me that they said it was about time we put something in place for wood piles. So this is this we believe meets our needs. We have looked, like I said, we looked at multiple communities as we issued this and wrote this, and I'll turn over. Steve, if you have anything else to add to that?
No, not much to really add. I think Manager Crowe covered it. This is based on an effort to manage wood piles within the city according to best practices. And that's what's codified here. Happy to answer any questions that anybody might have, though.
Chair?
Alderperson Bradshaw.
Thank you. Attorney Cox, I did read through this in its entirety, and I just wanted to point out for the listening public, if I understand this correctly, that the wood piles can be properly housed on the property if it's perhaps in a garage and or a shed, a legal structure, so to speak, so that actually they could have more than the 2 cords of wood. They could have only 2 cords of wood on the outside of the house, as stated, correct?
That is absolutely correct.
Thank you.
The one thing I will point out to council is, and then listen to Alderman Bradshaw, we do leave an exception for, in this ordinance, for the storage of wood down in our area where we store trees as we take them down, so that we don't, well, because we have more than, when we take the ash trees down, we have more than 2 cords of wood down in that particular area as we store it. We have a contract, as you know, with somebody that comes in and picks out, buys the wood for every, we get money for every truckload that comes out. They won't pick it up unless we have a large amount of wood. And the same thing with the grinding and chips. So we've exempted the area where we store the wood from this for the city, which is down just at the bottom of the landfill.
Chairman,
Alderman Parker.
quick question on that is how long does that large pile of wood wait till they get it picked up? Average, I know you don't know the exact date.
So we have 2 piles out there. We have one that is more of scrub brush, everything that's under 6 inches in diameter. And it is the bulk pile that you'll see when you drive out there. And that we usually get ground once a year, just based off of getting a tub grinder in.
And it's both us and the Park District.
Yes.
Well, we work together. So the Park District, when they have clean out the creeks for wood, they take it down there, and we split the cost for tub grinding between the two of us.
And it comes about once a year, they come in and do that?
Yeah, for the tub grinding. The firewood guy, he'll come in, depending on how busy he is. He usually comes in about once a week, but we've got a large enough pile that it usually takes him more loads than that, but he wants to make sure he at least gets a good load of nice logs that aren't completely rotted out.
Okay, thank you.
Chair,
Alderman Ross.
does the wood piles have to be covered with a roof or it's something like that?
It's a tarp or,
As long as it's covered with a tarp?
it is.
Okay.
Chair.
Alderman Borneman.
Manager Crowe, I see we do have an ordinance on the books dealing with rodents, and it specifically mentioned wood piles. What are some of the benefits this ordinance has as opposed to what's on the books?
What's on the books doesn't specify the size. We ran into a discussion is the definition and location of where the wood pile should be, and it became there were some issues and nuances that were, the code enforcement was having problems in interpreting that, and code enforcement and nuisance inspector talked with myself and Attorney Cox as we went forward and said they needed more clarification as to what they could ticket or not ticket.
Thank you.
Chair,
Alderperson Brescia.
thank you. Can I get some guesstimations? If this would be for the council's vote and it would go to ordinance form, it'd be the 19th would be first reading. Second reading, I'm guessing, would be December 3rd.
And it's just, actually, I think it's the 18th is that
Week
Monday.
from yesterday.
Yep, it's 18.
Going on Tuesday.
Oh, 18th, I'm sorry, I'm going Tuesday to
That's-
Tuesday. Pardon me. So the 18th,
First reading,
the second reading would be December 2nd.
yes, that's correct.
And if it was passed, this would go into law basically that same day,
No, typically it's a 30-day
30-day window?
window until we start. Allows everybody to,
That's what I was looking for, compliance date, sir. So if our constituents ask us, we would say approximately 30 days from December 2nd, they'd have to fall within
Right.
compliance?
you know, yeah, that's correct. And so this would, right now, as you know, our nuisance inspectors I put out to the council, we've written probably 40 tickets this year across, we've had one or two written so far on wood piles this year.
Yeah, just a handful, one or two certainly, but not many more than that on the ordinance that Alderman Borneman referred to.
Yeah, both of those ended up in front of administrative court. That was where we also got feedback that we needed to be more clarified on what we were doing.
Follow-up?
Go ahead.
Thank you. Well, there are many wood-burning fireplaces within Freeport, and I know even family members of my own that have these wood piles that will have to fall within compliance, and that's why I wanted to specifically know the dates for our constituents. Thank you.
Chair.
Alderman Parker.
Once this is in its official order or shape here, I wonder if I could get a handful of copies to take to my neighborhood watch meeting, because I know several of them are not going to be able to get in the website and get copies, and this way it would be there, even though it may not be approved yet, but at least they'll get pretty much what the final reading is. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. We can.
Could we add a definition as to what a cord is in here, just so there's no discrepancy?
We can add that, because we talked about that.
Certainly, and there's, if you do the research in it, there's full cords, there's face cords, there's
Yeah.
any number of things, so we can specify. I think the intent was that this would be a full cord, which goes to Manager Crow's comment, it's 4 foot by 4 foot by 8 foot. That would be a full cord. A face cord, I think, is 16 inches in depth only, which I don't think that was the intent. So we could specify full cord, or we could add dimensions to that too, if that's the council's preference.
Just something so there's clarity. I mean, if you're looking to eliminate ambiguity, I think you need a definition on there.
Okay. We can add that.
And also, with what you're saying on the other one that you use, like the 16 inches, the intent for individuals having this in this way, as long as they have it off the ground, I mean, obviously is to have it as a fuel source for a period of time. So as long as they're properly maintaining it and it's not a hazard down there, I'd like to have the flexibility for those individuals to utilize it in the way that they want or are intending to. Those obviously who have it indoors, this doesn't apply, on there too. And then in the subsection on C, Roman numeral small one, the storage of any other types of cut or uncut wood, timber branches, or other woody waste not specifically authorized herein. What was the intent of what you were trying to carve out there?
Brush piles.
Okay, and would you still be handling brush piles under the rodent section? Or what would you be handling that under?
Yeah,
I mean, it depends on if they get to that level,
it
obviously.
gets to that level. We still handle that under the rodent arbor and shade is what we do as we go forward. And we've used that, we're on several properties
Okay.
for brush piles.
Thanks for clarifying in regards to why you were saying that we were going to exempt the city, because when I first saw that, I thought, wait a second. But is that the area that you're trying to exempt, you said it's out by the landfill.
That's correct.
So it's not contributing to the rodent issue or things of that nature. Is that the only area that we're looking to exempt?
That is the only area that we're looking to exempt.
Just off the cuff, and I'd be interested in hearing other folks' thoughts on that. As we're refining this, perhaps we could exempt the location, not just any yard or facility maintained by the city of Freeport, just so it doesn't look like we're setting up one set of rules for ourselves and one for everybody else.
I'm gonna ask Director Carr if there's any issues with that.
The only thing I would question is, does this do anything with a pile of mulch? I mean, because that would be a large pile of wood.
Because we carry mulch out at the city yards.
I think it goes into your definitions, again.
Yeah.
on that.
We'll make sure the definitions exclude mulch.
So let's say somebody has a mulch pile, a citizen has a mulch pile, how do we normally handle that? Do we handle that? Do we care?
No, we don't, we don't ticket mulch piles.
So it wouldn't
It's
worry
just-
about it. Okay.
We shrubs, brush that's been tied, we do go ticket.
Chair.
Alderman Ross.
Okay, if we're gonna add, we exempt the city of Freeport.
That's correct.
Okay, do we think we should also just add the Park District in there as an exemption too?
The Park District actually uses our
There, so
area.
they don't have to be it. Okay,
What they do is they transport it down and we,
take care of it that way. All right,
that Jack works directly with Dennis to go,
okay,
move the stuff down to our pile.
okay.
Chair.
Mayor.
Manager Crowe, did you say how long the approximate timeframe that a cord lasts a family?
So the two cords would last approximately 45 days.
Okay, so if they had two of that size, 4x4x8, the average would be a 45-day supply for a family. I'm just making sure that, in 2 weeks they don't have to run out and get more for that's their source. So 45 days is
And that's based upon the
Sufficient.
average of the average wood burner stove.
Chair,
Alderperson Bradshaw.
do you need a motion to put this forward to the floor?
If it,
Next council
yeah, to move it onto the council, would need a motion.
With those modifications.
I would like to make that motion with those modifications.
Second it.
Further discussion? I do have one question. The 10-foot from any residential structure, how is that? I mean, is that going to be a drastic change for the current operations, or do most people kind of have a little setback from the house?
Some do. It's really to prevent termites from going from the wood pile into the structure. That's what we're trying to prevent. The recommendation is to offset the wood piles to make sure that they're, that we don't.
Okay.
Mr. Chair,
Alderman Busker.
with that being said, how is that going to affect having a structure solely just to store wood?
You have a structure, when we talk about a structure, we're talking about a house or home. You have a structure solely for storage of that wood, that's by that.
So someone couldn't build a lean-to onto their garage if they wanted to store wood?
No, it would have to be set aside in, like a shed in the back of the yard.
The subsection C2 says indoor for purposes of this section shall mean wholly enclosed, so as opposed to lean-to, within a weatherproof structure properly permitted to be maintained on the property.
Chair.
Alderperson Brescia.
Thank you. I think that 10-foot rule also applies if, say, somebody's storing it behind their garage and the neighbors had a garage on the property that was grandfathered in. They wouldn't want them to put that wood pile up against the back of the neighbor's property. And if they had wood-boring insects such as carpenter ants, they want to make sure that the other structure is safeguarded. So it's not just the owner's property. I think that was in consideration here.
Other discussion? Other than that, there was a motion. It was by Alderperson Brescia. Who was the second?
Me.
Alderman Ross. Okay. Without any further discussion, all in favor of moving this onto the next regularly scheduled council meeting, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It's moved on to the next council meeting. Item 9 is presentation regarding levy by Manager Crow and Director Bucus.
Thank you, council. As we have previously discussed during the budget discussions, the tax levy is going to fire and police pensions as we go forward. So we call this the tax levy for fire and police pension discussions. All right. So last year what we did not levy, so last year we had a larger EAV increase than was originally estimated by the county tax assessor. These are what his estimate was, and it affected both us and the park district because we levied based upon his estimate. We were expecting an increase in personal property tax from the estimates that we were getting from the state based upon the IML estimations. Some other facts, we have increased our taxes due to $13,000 that we would have gotten into the city due to the annexations. We are placing all of the EAV taxes are going to go towards fire. Last year we put them towards police, and what we are predicting, what the county is currently predicting is an increase in EAV of 3.4% this year. It'll be the third straight year we've had an increase in EAV. So what we're saying, recapture the missed, we have two options we're going to present to you. The first option is recapturing the missed EAV increase. It would be a total increase of $1 from currently the amount per $1,000, $100,000 home as an EAV would be four from the city's rate is $402. And we would increase that to $403 per hundred approximately. And then we keep the rate flat, so we tax at the exact same rate based upon the 3.4% increase. It would still be at $402 in the increase. So this, as you'll go back, you'll see the difference is the personal property replacement tax is a little bit different between the two. The proposed contribution tax levy is firefighters are increasing here, and then firefighters get more personal property replacement tax under this option. So both of our contributions would be over the 90%, would lead us over the 90% for the recommended amount for that that was recommended from the actuary, which is the minimum established by the state that we have to contribute and work towards. So those are our two options. As always, the reason we're recommending option one is because we did not completely capture all of the EAV increase. It actually, if you paid close attention to your tax bills, the tax rate from the city actually decreased in the rates. The overall taxes did increase because of the increase from the school system and the increase from the county. So this is capturing that lost EAV. We also, the library is capped at the amount of the due. They're actually seeing that because of the increased EAV, they're actually seeing a rate of a decrease of about $3 over their EAV rate because they are capped. Now the library option, this is what they do. So it's very similar circumstances. And then their option 2 is keeping it flat. We'll see a $6 decrease in the library. So as we said, I put up there the HVAC. She's having some real issues with her HVAC. They are tapping into some reserves this year, and they needs additional operating money as we go forward. So we're standing by for questions. Last year we had 7 options, so this year we're only looking at that. Questions?
Or discussion?
Sure.
Alderperson Bradshaw?
Thank you. Manager Crowe, how is the library proposing to receive additional operating money to make up for their shortfall?
They're right now scheduled to get money out of the foundation, the library foundation, to pay for the HVAC work. What was it, $17,000 this year?
15,000, and the foundation has not actually approved that. This is coming from the library's reserves.
You want- come on up.
We actually found out last week that we need to do some updating and repairs that are gonna cost us 15,000. So that is on top of our normal operating budget. And it has not been approved by the foundation that they're gonna give us that extra 15,000 for the year to pay for that. So we will, at this point in time, all of that money without any grant resource or from the foundation would be coming strictly from our reserves that we have built up. And some of that is from when the library was originally built.
Follow-up question, please.
Go ahead.
And then I believe I read, they changed the page there, but that there would be a shortfall in other avenues as well.
Well, currently we do a funds transfer on our budget of 60,000 from our reserves. So if we spend between 60 and 75,000, all of our reserves will be gone in 4 years.
One more follow-up?
Go ahead.
Is there any way the library can do some type of fundraiser to make the public aware?
I'm working on it.
No, I'm not trying to put words in your mouth,
No,
Director
that is,
Huffines.
the point of having the foundation is to do some fundraising, and I'm working on it.
Thank you for that.
Chair.
Alderman Burberry.
Manager Crowe, myself and a lot of folks, taxpayers that I talk to, are very surprised that all the EAV taxes goes towards pensions. When did that precedent come about? Have we always budgeted that way? And is there a reason for that as opposed to some other fund?
So that actually, we began 2 years ago doing that. And the same with the personal property replacement tax.
Okay.
And that's strictly because the state establishes that we have to fund to a 90% level. And we failed to do that actually 2 years ago, and we're catching up. We've been working towards catching up with some other funding that we're doing, because it's not only just the personal property replacement tax and the and the property tax, we're also giving a portion of the gas and electric tax that's going to pensions, and that's how we've been able to raise it above that. And that's strictly a liability that has continued to increase. And this year we saw a large increase over actually the last 2 years in the fire pension, because we've had 13 firefighters retire as they were getting in over 60 years old. Now we have a younger force, younger police force, younger firefighting force, but and they're continuing to contribute at that rate, and they're in the tier 2 retirement plan, where a lot of the people that were retired were in the tier 1, which was the more expensive one. And what we have to do is the other thing is life expectancy of the individuals in the actuary have gone up. The other thing is when the state estimated its returns back when, many years ago, when the state was doing it, before Gadsby stepped in and said we had to hire actuaries to go in, they were estimating the average return from the stock market was at 8%, when we were getting only in the area of about 5.9%. The actuary is now estimating, what, 6.25%, Randy, is that right? And they've lowered our return.
Right, we lowered our expected rate of return from 6.75% last year to 6.5% this year. And that's still kind of high because we haven't been really hitting there. We've been in, like City Manager said, about 5.9 to 6.1%. So
it's been our
still going to be a shortfall.
And that's one of the reasons why they're talking about consolidation. The state, the governor, because the other thing that restricts it is the state, by the state constitution, restricts the amount of money that we can invest in the stock market versus stocks and bonds. And it's all based upon the amount of assets you have within, and you also have to have it professionally managed. If it's professionally managed, then you can invest more into the stock market. Our funds are both professionally managed, but we're still limited. I think Randy, you sit on those, is it 65% is what we can put into the stock market?
45.
45% of the stock, the other ones have to be in bonds. And bonds, as you know, bond market's been down.
So to add on to that, there's nothing magical that requires it to come out of property taxes. It's just you have to fund it somewhere.
Right.
And historically, looking back, it used to be that pension obligations, you could fund out of your property taxes, you could fund both your pension obligation or was being asked, and then you had some left over for corporate and other things. But as Manager Crow and Director Bucas were saying, as the pension costs have increased, life expectancy has increased, the actuarial assumed rate of return has decreased, which has led to our increased obligations, and then the amounts, for instance, this year, just in police and fire alone, we're contributing about $3.65 million towards pensions, at a few $100,000 maybe for IMRF, give or take. So you look at that number, and then you look at your property taxes, including the personal replacement tax on it. The property taxes plus that is less than, the 3.65, not to mention the IMRF thrown on top. So a few years ago, that's when the change came over, that not only we're having to contribute a portion of our property taxes and then a little bit going to corporate, but all our property taxes plus. And that's just to get us on target for the 90% by 2040, which is not the 100% that Gatsby recommends.
Yeah. And in fact, Gatsby is which is the General Accounting and Standards Board, it's based out of Connecticut, says when we go through bonding and for our rating, what they view it as based upon 100% funded. That's what, when we go for a rating through either Moody's or Standard & Poor's, they look at 100% what our rating is, and they view this as a liability on our books that hurts us in our bond rating, and which ultimately costs us more money if we bond out for in basis points, percentage points within it. Now, the interesting side note on this, going with what Alderman Clanthan says, there are two areas that the state says if you're a non-home rule community that you can levy for without a truth and taxation hearing. Or, well, not a referendum. You don't have to have a referendum to do it. There are only two, and that's for GO bonds, general obligation bonds, and for paying pensions.
Okay.
And so that's what happens if we lose home rule. You know, the only way we're going to be able to pay for this, continue to pay for this, is through taxation, property tax.
And if you look at that, you know, that leaves us with a couple options. You know, one, right now, we're at 3 million, you know, when you use those personal property and the pensions. And if we're, Director Bucas, do you have approximately what our IMRF contribution is? I know the police and fire is about 3.65. What is the IMRF?
Our total contributions are you're talking about overall, about 448,000, and we levy 278,000 in taxes.
Yep.
Okay, so 448,000 for IMRF?
Yes.
Okay, so if you put it all together, it's just north of 4 million for pension contributions for this year.
And,
Okay. And where I'm going with that is what you're saying is, if you look at our property taxes right now, the property taxes as, you know, as proposed, just the property tax, without the personal contributions is about 2.56. And if you are at 4 million on your pension obligations, that's a $1.5 million gap that if our only mechanism for funding that is through property taxes outside of a referendum approving it, you can do the math. One thing I do want to note as we transition to this discussion is when you're talking about our property taxes, it is important to note when you look at your property tax bill, everybody kind of many people look at it and they see the property tax bill and say, I'm paying $3,500 in property taxes or whatever, or $5,000 or $1,500, whatever it is. A lot of times people look at that and say, well, that's all going to the city. I do want to point out that there are 8 taxing bodies that make up the property tax. And just looking at a sample $100,000 one, 60.1% of it goes to the school district, 10.7% goes to the county, 9.1% of it is to the city. So if let's say you've put in $3,500 in property taxes, less than 350, that's going towards the city. And then you've also got the park, Highland, Township, Library, Mosquito that makes up the rest of that percentage for those of you who are keeping math at home. But
and I want to make sure so everybody's 61% goes to the school district, right? That's.
I looked at mine and it said 60.1, so everybody differs with exemptions and stuff, but
Right.
yeah. Alderman Borneman.
So, maybe I missed this. What would you expect this to increase the average property tax bill?
If we keep it at $402, we don't expect any increase from us. I know the county right now is meeting to expand, to look at their levy, and they are again looking to increase their levy this year. And the county is fixed by a PTEL, which is non-home rule, which is they cannot increase any more than 2.5% except for obligation bonds and health and safety, which is basically the sheriff's department and pensions.
Now, you were saying you're projecting an EAV increase of 3.4%.
That's correct.
So now the county, how does that 2.5% to fit in?
Well, that's based upon an increase on the overall EAV for the county. So we're still going to see, they get that so it's the 3.4% increase on forEAV, which is the equalized assessed value.
So when you say if we leave our rate, the city's rate flat. Forget all the other 7 bodies. If we leave our rate flat, if somebody's house didn't increase in value, there won't be any change.
That's correct.
Now, if their house increased in value,
there will be a change.
They would see an increase.
That's correct.
And likewise, if their value went down, there'd see
They'd see a decrease. Right. But somebody's making that 3.4% somewhere, which is, okay.
So so we issued, as we talked about earlier, we issued, so in the last 2 years, we've issued close to, correct me if I'm wrong, have the figure right, $24.7 million in building, 6.7 last year and 18.1.
Okay.
That's right.
So some of that that increase isn't a 3.4 build across the board. The assessor hasn't gone around and raised 3.4 across the board. You're just talking about the new investments in here, some that may have increased in value, some that may have decreased in value. Okay. Getting to option 1 and 2 in regards to the city, my personal opinion is I'm not interested in recapturing the missed EAV increase. We're talking, I think it was 10,000, well, in regards to the numbers that it is, you know, we set a figure last year. We got by with that figure. I don't think it's going to make or break the city budget. I personally don't have any interest in looking backwards and quote unquote recapturing that. Interested in hearing others' opinions on that, though.
Well, Chair.
Go ahead.
With regards to the 90% rate that we're striving to get to without an increase, where are we at? You said that one would put us over the 90.
So this year, for the first time, with all of our funding, we're actually over the 90%. We're, Randy, do you have the figures off the top? Randy, I don't have my work.
If I could do a little editorial as well. Last year, we were looking at trying, as the city manager mentioned, trying to raise the police pension up because we were down quite a bit. And then this year, we're going to looking at raising any new values to the fire pension fund. What we had to do last year, or we have to do this year, is we're actually decreasing part of the personal property tax that we put to the police pension fund last year, and we're giving that increase to the fire pension fund so that they can make their 90%. They did not make their 90% last year. And when we do that, the fire pension fund will be $4,400 over the 90%. So we're right at 90%. With the police pension fund, will be about 140,000 over the 90%. So it's not much of a gain, but it is something.
And so we're about 44 to 45% funded under police. We're over 50% in fire. So what happens is once we drop below 50% funded, then we start getting on a state watch list. And if you drop below it's below 20%, 25%, then the state dictates to you, and it's happened to 4 communities in the state of Illinois, can dictate you. If the union sues, they can dictate to you what taxing rate you want to do. So we want to keep it above the 50. Our goal is to get it back above the 50%. We're off the watch list. At that point, Harvey, I can't remember.
Harvey, North Chicago.
There was I can't remember the 4 communities have all been, their tax rates have all been established by the state.
And those communities were all sub 30% funded.
Well, they were all under 10% on one of their 2 pensions.
And don't forget, we incorporated a substantial infusion of funds.
We did.
Estimated between 700 and 800,000, if I recall correctly, with these utility taxes.
That's correct.
Which is also part of the reason why, you know, while the number figure that we're not talking about is very substantial compared to that, you know, I'd rather not go back and just hit that additional burden on folks, even though it's a nominal burden. It all goes into the broader pie.
So, what we're planning to do is, so on the 18th, the budgets are in front of you. We're going to do first reading of the budgets, and after that, we're going to list the public, send out our public notice, have it open for examination at the clerk's desk, and then have the public hearing on the 2nd. That's for the budget. We plan to bring the levy to council. If you want to go with option 2, either one of these options, we can have it ready for the first reading on the 18th. If there's a desire, our timeline that we had presented to you was that we would do it on the 3rd and then approval on the 16th, but we can move that forward if the council, which option they want to go forward on, we can have that ready and then what we'll do is readjust the adjustments that we need to do in the budget, and this year's, closing out this year's budget, at the meeting on, the second meeting in December.
Alderperson Preshaw.
I'm all for option 2.
Is that a motion?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I'll second that. Moving to recommend option 2 for the property tax levy for our, well, on the timeline that you just said.
As stated.
Alderman Boardman.
With regards to the library issue, are we considering that right now too? Or are we?
Was your motion, I took your motion to be just in regards to the city portion, and then we discussed the library, or was it both?
The city portion. only.
Okay, yeah.
Well, I guess it sounds like the library foundation could potentially fund the HVAC project at the library that's needed, but that's not guaranteed. But if the city were to make the arrangements through this to do that, then it's almost guaranteed that the library foundation won't make the arrangements to fund that, right? Because the city would be paying for it and they would know they wouldn't need to do it.
Well, she's still withdrawing out of her reserves.
Mm-hmm. So there's other reasons to do this for the library than just the HVAC.
Also, libraries is capped at 4 cents, so
They can't change it.
they can't raise it more than that any if they wanted to.
Along those lines then, that, you said capped at, was it 4 cents?
Yes.
You said? So and that's irrespective of EAV?
Correct.
So this is pretty much what they're looking at
Yep.
Right.
in perpetuity? Where's the
No,
relief,
well-
where's the relief for the district down the, or the library down the road?
So if they were, the only relief is if they ever decided to form their own taxing district,
Okay.
and then they would be controlled by PTEL.
So for property tax purposes, though, this is the max that they
Right.
can
So
get.
the other thing that's happened with the library is, so under the cities in 1974, when personal property tax was done away with the state, each community had to go forward as and establish an ordinance that could not be changed at that point. And the way our ordinance is established is that the first 2 portions that will be paid out of the personal property replacement tax is the fire and police pension, then followed by the library. So if we ever got to the point where we would have more to meet that 90% requirement under the state constitution, that was set forward. So if at any time we funded more out of it, they could get some additional personal property replacement tax. What's happened is up until 2 years ago, they were getting a portion of the personal property replacement tax.
I do recall that. So how are we getting the, on option 1, how are we getting that if they're already at the cap?
Okay, under option 1, what I did is I raised their levy that they're proposing, but they'll still get around $828,000 is what I'm projecting. The reason I raised it over above what we think they're going to get is because with the increase in the equalized value, if there is more money and you don't levy for it, you're not going to get it. Then you're capping yourself. So you could actually levy a higher amount for the library, and they won't get it. You know, they'll be capped at wherever they're at.
So if you levy $1 million, just so you know, or $1 million, and that turns out to, you know, the 4 cents, and that they hit the cap on that,
Right.
that's it. But let's say the $1 million turns out to be slightly below the cap, then what they get is actually a little bit less than what they could have got under the max cap, if you will.
That's correct. You could levy 1 million, but they only get the 800 and
So theoretically, we could levy on this $1.25 million if we wanted to, and it wouldn't have any effect in regards to what they can actually collect.
correct.
Okay.
And I know the question came to me earlier today from one of the aldermen, is the library tied to the city? And that they're not. They're 2 separate levies, as you can see from the tax bill. And I'll give actually, she's actually got to go through multiple more steps. She's having a board meeting tomorrow night, so based upon what your recommendation move forward, she's going to present that to her board tomorrow night.
Go ahead.
If I'm reading the slides correctly, either way, regarding the library options, it's gonna be less than what people paid last year. If I see, looks like it's either a $6 decrease or a $4 decrease from what was paid last year through property taxes by an average homeowner.
That's correct.
So this one is a little more theoretical than
Hard.
Than ours.
Well,
Do you, no, I won't hold you. Go ahead. All right,
no, the one thing, it's based upon, all of these are based upon we don't get the final EAV. One of the problems we're having is the county assessor positions right now, it's empty. And so they have a temporary in there, so we're slower at the estimates. We used to, as we're coming into our budget season, typically the levy, we would get updates every 2 weeks is what their estimate was. We haven't gotten an update since Ron left, so these are still theoretical numbers. Last year, Ron underestimated and he felt good about those numbers when he left the 1st of November, so.
For any of the three of you, director, or city manager, based on the figures you have, are you seeing a practical difference between, or you think you're going to cap out either way, based on what you've seen, or are you not able to make that assertion?
I'm not sure I know what you mean by capped out.
Are you going to be capped at the 4 cent? That the
Oh, the
1
library?
million, whether it's $1,001,000 or $1,013,000, do you anticipate you're probably reaching that cap under either figure?
Yes. Yes, we're reaching that cap.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, I suppose we should probably resolve the motion in regards to the city levy first. There's a motion and a second to present option 2 for the city levy. Is there any further discussion on that?
Chair,
Alderman Burberry.
I guess I look at it from the standpoint of a citizen who's paying a tax. And the effect on a $100,000 home is $1. And in the world of business, if you can gain $1, go ahead and gain the dollar. Now, because in the future, you may be able to apply that tax rate to a higher number, EAV. So the question would be, why not take advantage of that now? So, that's just my point of view.
Right, well, and you can if you want. My preference is, as a rate overall, we know how high we are on the property taxes, right, community-wide, realizing we're only 9% of that, and I know it's only $1, but, if I'm gonna go on the line in regards to one of those, we just put in, like I said, a significant increase on the utilities, to cover these pensions. Even if it's $1, I'd rather forego that, frankly. But I get your point. I do.
Thank you.
Other discussion? Hearing none, there is a motion and a second to move forward on option 2 as it pertains to the city property tax levy proposal. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
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 Opposed?
Aye.
The motion carries on there. I believe by voice vote. Nobody wanted a roll call vote on that? Or Alderman Burberry, do you want a roll call vote on that?
I do not.
Okay, thanks. Turning to the library, option 1 and 2, further discussion or motions?
It's option 1, option 2. I feel like an eye doctor here, option 1.
Yeah.
Chair,
Alderperson Brescia.
I'm going to ask one more time. So the difference for the library to collect money in hand from option 1 to option 2 is what?
So what you're basically doing is we're ensuring option 1 raises based upon, raises is a higher levy amount, in case the EAV is even higher than we anticipate. But they are capped at 4% and 4 cents.
So it can't go higher if it's capped.
That's correct. So you'll notice, see, the tax rate is, estimated tax rate is 4 cents, or is, you know, the 477 or 477.229 at that rate, and here it's 471.884, but it's capped at that 4. As what that does is it just ensures that if, like last year, we got more EAV than we anticipated, that they are capturing everything that they're owed.
Follow up?
Go ahead.
So may I ask, what are the benefits then? I mean, to me, I'm looking at both of them and I'm not sure which way to go.
So what we do is when we give the tax rate, we don't actually give a tax rate. We give the amount of money that we are taxing for. And what we do is base that upon a tax rate. So we're establishing, so if the EAV, we see this 30% increase on EAV and we say we're gonna levy it at 1 million, then we make sure that we capture all of that. Where if we're gonna capture all their 4% or whatever we gather, but it would really, more realistic, let's say, rather than seeing a 3.4% increase, we see it, what last year, I think we were supposed to see a 4.2% increase. We ended up seeing or maybe it was 2.4 and we saw 4.2. So we saw that increase. There was a greater increase in EAV. Let's say that we don't set it the upper level, we see that instead of 4.2, we're seeing like an 8.6. We may not capture all of that EAV increase. Where this option, by going with option 1, you'll capture all that. If you go with option 2, you may not necessarily capture all of that.
Mr. Chair,
Alderman Busker.
kind of simplify it down here. With either option, the money coming out of a taxpayer's pocket is less than what it was last year?
That's correct.
Follow up?
Go ahead.
And which one of these options would benefit the library's functionality better?
Option 1.
I move to move option 1 on to the next scheduled meeting.
I'll second.
And just to be clear, you still anticipate, though, under the realities of the figures where we're at, whether we do option 1 or 2, they're going to hit the cap, and so it's probably going to be the same amount regardless of what we set the levy. Unlike the city, it's going to be.
But the overall, because we anticipate the even if we get the 3.4% increase in EAV, we're going to see, because they're taxing across all EAV, we're going to see a decrease in the rate in which they're being taxed at, because they are capped at 4%.
With the library being capped at 4, what I'm asking is, you've got an increase. I know the dollar amount we're levying is different, but is the dollar amount actually going to the library? Do we anticipate it being different whether we do option 1 or 2 because of the caps?
Because of the caps, they'll probably get the same amount.
Okay.
It's just a matter of how much you spread out the savings.
Okay, and that's different from the city because we don't have those.
That's correct.
Right.
Caps in place there on that, so.
That's correct.
All right. So if we're going with option 1, likelihood being no different from option 2 in actual money when it comes out, but in the unlikely event that there is, this gives the library an opportunity to have a little additional revenue on it.
That's correct.
Okay. Alderman Boardman.
No, I was just going to point out there's a motion on the floor, Chair.
Yeah, and this is discussion. Any further discussion on the motion? All right, hearing none, all in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion carries. Item number 10, discussion regarding financial software presented by Director Bucus.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. 2 years ago, the city looked at purchasing new software. Our current software does not meet our needs. We actually have two software systems, one being Locust at our financial package that we use along with payroll, and then we have Civics that our water and sewer division uses. We had demonstrations from 8 different software firms, and as we were going through the process a couple years ago, we realized there weren't sufficient funds budgeted to purchase and implement the new software. So we lined up ranking the software companies and that we did interview, and Tyler Encode and Tyler Munis. Tyler owns a number of software firms. Were basically the top 2 software firms that we felt met our needs. And then this September, we interviewed both the Tyler companies plus BSNA, which we did not interview 2 years ago. It was a company that somehow missed our radar, and it was one that we wanted to. In fiscal year 2018B, we budgeted $140,000 for the new software. The software is going to cost a little bit more than that. We kind of underfunded it. When we were looking at the software, that company that I was looking at, I thought was more in the $125,000 to $140,000 range, and we did not go with that route. Part of the software purchase in 2018B and the remainder, 2019B, right, can be purchased this year, and then we're looking at the remainder in fiscal year 2020. Currently, the fiscal year 2020 budget the water fund has $30,000 budget for the new utility billing software, as does the sewer have. And we also budget an additional $15,000 in the MIS department as well. It's my recommendation that the city purchase the software from Tyler Encode. Their base cost is $204,513, and with some incidentals, it comes to about $214,592. And their annual cost is $35,000. Tyler Munis system costs $369,634, and you can add on another $179,000 incidentals with them as well. Their annual cost is $30,000, and BSNA software costs $330,560, and their annual cost is $31,000.
So the other thing is that when we're talking about money coming out of water and sewer, that's because we're also replacing Civic under this. We're bringing all of the financial, so right now we have 2 sets of financial software. We have Locus, which is designed for communities in the area of 5,000 to 7,000. So we're finding that because some real issues with Locus, and because of that, it also does not have tracking software for vacation time, sick time, and there is no communications between Locus and Civic. Civic is the software we're doing for financial billing for the water department, water and sewer, and the other thing that's going on with water and sewer, as we talked about previously, is Neptune is being upgraded. Tyler Munis communicates with Neptune, and they can transition, or Tyler Encode, excuse me, and they can transition to Civic. In fact, our deputy IT director did this in North Water Water District. He did the same transition. The other thing that it will allow us to do, as we talked about, is bringing the water app onto phones, so you can residents can track their water usage either online or on their phone and get alerts when they see increases as we go forward. Our Neptune support software, as we talked about in a previous meeting, is being discontinued at the end of next year, and so we would have to do some type of transition as it goes forward. So all those recommendations went into the recommendation the staff is making for you.
Chair.
Alderperson Preschel.
Thank you. Deputy Director, I was going through all your line items here, and it does look like the encode is priced considerably less when you look at all the fees added together. A huge percentage less, actually, even though the annual fees are only slightly higher. I was concerned at first because it is so much less a price that maybe it wasn't of the same caliber or quality, but then I read with great interest that you have worked with Encode in 2 previous cities, and you are familiar with it, so you do believe that the software will meet the needs of Freeport, correct?
That's correct.
So Tyler Encode, or for communities in the area, they establish it, are typically in the 15 to, 35,000. Tyler Munis are from communities that are typically 30,000 to 75,000. So the Encode is really designed for our community and the number of line items we have within our budget.
I see. One more follow-up, please. Thank you. Director Bucus, I was looking at this too. The travel costs are considerably less than the other 2 bidders on this Munis and BSNA. Is there a reason why? Is there a closer place that they're traveling to do the training or traveling to here, or how does that work?
Encode is based out of Michigan, Munis is based out of Maine, and BSNA, I believe, is out of either Nebraska or Kansas. So all of them would bill us basically whatever their costs were.
I'm sorry, so that's basically just a guesstimation, but it seems feasible since they are closer in location than the other 2, is that correct?
Yes.
And one more question, please.
Go ahead.
Other incidentals, what would those be? Because Encode lists 10,000 and Munis lists 179,000 and BSNA have no incidentals listed. What is all that about?
It's to help their software talk to to Neptune and to other portions of what we're looking at in the future, other minor software programs.
I don't get it.
Okay.
Can we call, you want to step up here, Kurt? We'll ask the IT director so when we did this selection, you know that this was strictly not a financial department. We had every user that uses this involved in the selection committee, from the IT department, the water and sewer, Shelley, and the down below for customer service, Denise Soren, Denise Scudder, all the financial, Randy, as well as Kurt's office. So Kurt, you want to go through this?
I think what Randy was getting at, they call it middleware. Anytime you have 2 pieces of software, you get a 3rd piece to sit in the middle so that they can talk. It's like a translator, basically. If that's
an incidental?
But we don't have to, personally we don't want to, but it wasn't part of their main bid.
One more follow-up. Please understand, I'm not trying to discredit any of this information, but if I have a constituent ask me, what did you spend that additional $10,000 on an incidental, and nobody asked that question, I want to be able to answer that question.
Software.
So it's a thing in the middle. That's all I understand so far.
Yep.
Can you dumb it down a little bit for me?
so any information system has output and input. So one software will output something, and you'll need to convert or get that to input into the next one. So say Neptune gets our water meter reads, you'll need a piece of middleware, which would be an incidental, plus the engineer and the developer to make that all work, to go, that output to become input for Encode.
So it's a mechanical item?
No, it's software.
Software.
Software. It allows software so the 2 software can talk to each other.
Okay, I'm sorry. I'm sure my sons would make fun of me asking these questions. I think I understand it a little better now. Thank you.
Chair.
Thank you.
Alderman Ross.
Okay, what is this may seem a little far-fetched, but what is the life expectancy of this software?
Well, each software, the problem in the past is the city used to buy a set of software and wouldn't do the yearly updates. And so what we've done is the $35,000 that's in there gets us the yearly updates.
For how long?
And Kurt, turn to my IT guy.
Randy?
Well, yeah, well, in the contract, we're looking at 7 years. In the contract, we're looking at 7 years.
So, I'll follow.
Go ahead.
So, every 7 years, it'll be 35,000?
No, every year for,
Every year they get an update.
right, every year it's updated. And that's about the average cost. I didn't put in each year. Each year it's different, it goes up a little bit. But the average is about $35,000. And that's for each, $35,000 each year for 7 years.
7 years, okay, now,
Right.
follow up again.
Go ahead.
What happens after 7 years?
Well, there's a couple things you could do. You could continue on with the software, because I'm sure they're going to continue updating it, or you could look for new software.
So it's good for 7 years, in other words?
Well, it could be good for a lot longer than that. You know, it all depends on how long you think you could use it. I think the Civics we have now, we've had for 4 years.
I think 6.
6 years, so.
And we are
Technology.
we are not on the current, it would have it's gonna cost us money, because they've never updated the Civics, that we've completely updated it. So we were going to have to update Civics as it was anyway, because it is getting to the end of the usable life. Neptune is already, they told us that the current software we have is no longer supported. That has to be replaced by 2021. So, and Locus is just a beast. It's a dinosaur.
It doesn't fit our needs at all. Locus wasn't developed, in my opinion, for a community our size. We're the largest user of Locus
Yeah, we're nationwide.
by a lot.
In regards to the need, you guys have been, not to say, I don't even say you guys, because it predates the city manager form of government. They've been talking about updating the financial software and on its last legs, beyond its last legs. This has been a long time coming. I saw you have 8 different software firms you said demonstrations from. The 3 that before us, were they just considered the top 3 that you were reviewing, or?
Well, what we did is I asked everybody to evaluate the 8 software
Our committee.
that we had a demonstration from, and basically the 2 Tyler's came out on top, and then I wanted to interview A&S, and somehow I didn't invite them last time, so I threw them in this time just to see.
Okay.
Chair.
Alderman Burbank.
Director Bucus, is training for the individuals incorporated here somewhere?
Yes, that's all in part of that's all in the cost of the conversion and everything. Training, this is this entire package, not only software, but training. Okay. Converting from our old systems and incorporating into the new. One nice thing about Tyler is that they also have what they call the Tyler University, that you could go online at any time and do additional training if you want, or look up a problem if you want, or want to try something new. And that's all part of the annual fee that we pay for the maintenance of the system and the upkeep.
Thank you.
And Tyler, so council's aware, Tyler is basically the Microsoft of municipal software. They are the largest company within the United States for municipal software.
Chair, so this,
Alderman Ross.
this will be more user-friendly compared to the other software.
Definitely, more friendly than what we have now. Definitely.
Okay. I'd make a motion to move the recommendation forward under the next scheduled council meeting.
Second it.
Discussion? Hearing none. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries. All right, the next item on the agenda is public comments. Agenda or non-agenda items.
Chair, excuse me,
Yes.
I missed who made the motion and the second on that.
I made the motion, seconded by Ross.
Thank you.
Correct.
Correct.
Steve?
Okay, I'm Steve Carroll. Excuse me. 11 months ago, the Freeport Housing Authority received the results of a forensic audit conducted by the auditing firm of Clifton, Larson, and Allen. After 2 months of discussion in closed session at the January 11th board meeting, the board decided not to release the results of the forensic audit. In fact, at the same meeting, commissioners were asked to sign non-disclosure agreements. 5 out of 7 did. The subject of the forensic audit has not appeared on any of the Housing Authority's board meetings, agendas since, either in open session or in closed session, buried forever. They're able to do this by keeping the audit in preliminary form, basically saying it hasn't been completed. There is a determination from the State of Illinois AG's office confirming that this is legal. Well, it might be legal, but is it right? The Housing Authority spent over $24,000 of our tax dollars for a forensic audit they refuse to release. Obviously, they don't like the results. So, what are they trying to hide? Criminal activity, or are they trying to avoid litigation from current and former residents? Let me tell you, federal intervention is desperately needed. As mayor, Jody Miller is the presiding officer over the Housing Authority, and she's well aware of the stonewalling of the audit, of the forensic audit, but she stays silent and does nothing. Need I remind Mayor Miller that she has constituents in public housing who are the most economically disadvantaged citizens in Freeport. It's time for Mayor Miller to step up on this issue and not be part of the cover-up. Simply put, step up or step down.
Further public comments? Linda?
My name is Linda Johnson. Mayor Miller, Manager Lowell, and council members. First of all, I do appreciate all the work and time that you all contribute in making decisions for the city of Freeport, especially concerning the increased burdens placed on cities and counties in relation to the new law to legalize recreational marijuana. I'm here to present some questions for all of you to ponder prior to taking the vote on whether to opt out of having dispensaries, cultivators, etc. within our city limits. Therefore, let us reason together. What is the purpose of operating a dispensary within the city limits? Who will it serve? Will it bring a better quality of life to the people who live here? If so, how? Will it really control marijuana usage? Will it really prevent black market sales? I believe there is some evidence that it does not. Will it really make for so-called safe marijuana usage? Who or what could be harmed by the opening of these things within our city? Will it stop marijuana from entering the city from other sources? This is doubtful because it already is coming into the city from other sources. Will it decrease marijuana usage? Doubtful, but it could escalate its usage. Will the money gained from taxes of this substance outweigh the money spent on training the police force, medical people, and also overseeing the governing of its usage? Our state is supporting its usage. This drug that is harmful to those who use and abuse it, and also is harmful to those who are around those who do. Marijuana usage is much like alcohol, cigarettes, or gambling. None of them can be controlled by laws. Control is a self-discipline based on what each individual believes to be true and many internal and external factors that affect each individual. Do we help by placing an open door in front of those who are in a place of addiction to tempt them even more? The best way to deal with the temptation is to stay as far away from it as you can and not even open the door. Will this improve the economy? Will it increase the workforce or decrease the workforce? Will it improve family dynamics or adversely affect them? Will it increase domestic violence or increase it? Will it build up neighborhoods? Will it save lives? Will it add value or worth to people? What is the goal of our city? What is the mission of the council for this city? Does this action agree with our goals and our mission for the people and for this city? Thank you for your time and consideration. I ask that you consider the answers to these questions, and I would ask that you opt out. Thank you.
Tommy.
I want to thank Matt Summers, be the police chief, and congratulations. And you, I hope you do. I'm glad you got it.
Thanks, Tom.
And I wanted ask, Carl, what's building over by, the Bernard's and Walmart?
It's the car wash they're building there in front of Menards.
Oh, car wash? And Jody Miller, you do a good job throwing in Matt Summers, and we're proud of you, and Darren Davis,
Thank you, Tommy.
and that's a good job, and we want to keep you for mayor forever.
Any further public comments?
No need.
Dennis? Oh, is this an announcement?
This is more of an announcement since we don't have department head meetings. There's been a lot of questions coming in about leaf pickup. So we sent out a press release earlier, and I did want to let everybody know we were going to be getting the last round of leaf pickup. I only say it's going to be the last round because we have to use the unloaders and the dump trucks now. So this round is probably going to take us well over a month. So at this point in time, I know there's snow on the ground, but as soon as you can see your leaves, if you could get them out on the road, that'll be your last chance before winter comes around again for the second helping. Be sure to check the leaf map. We're going to update it. Know that we can only tell you where we're at and where we're going next. We can't schedule out anything advanced. So if your area is not highlighted at all, it just means that you're not really on our radar right now. Please don't call. We understand we're going to get there. Please understand that we will get there. We are going again, but it is a very slow go when we have to use the larger heavy equipment. So, thank you.
Quick questions. So even if and when, hopefully, by the end of this weekend, that this version of the snow melts, it's going to be wet enough that your typical equipment is not going to be effective?
So with the temperatures dropping down below freezing every night next week, I don't see the leaves loosening up to the point where our vacs are going to work or where they're going to work effectively.
Thank you. Any further public comments or announcements? Seeing none, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Moved by Busker, seconded by Ross. All in favor of the motion?
Aye.